Okay, so let me grab them first. Ha! I'm good at this. How long have I been on this channel? Oh, I don't know, 4 years. Cool. Hi everybody, my name is Kelsey and we're about to get very, very nerdy with my October haul. So it is the time of the month again where I show you how much self-control I do not have with my October haul. So we have many a thing to go through. We had the book fair at my husband's school in the last month, the Scholastic Book Fair. So we got a good chunk of middle grade. Some pre-orders came in, some things I finally decided to stop putting off and buying. Subscription boxes. Oh, and then we also went to the bargain bookstore near us. So we've got lots of things to go through. As usual, I will leave all of them linked down below, the ones that I can find, if you would like to know more information about them. Snuggle up, get a nice warm drink. It's starting to get real cold where I am. It's finally starting to feel, well, we skipped over fall. Now it's just starting to feel like Christmas. And snuggle in, because we've got quite a few to go through. So the first two books that I'm going to show you are the books that came in the September Fairy Loot, because I did unbox that at the beginning of the month. If you don't want to be spoiled for that, as always, click ahead a couple of minutes. I'll leave my unboxing linked above if you would like to check that out. But there were two books included this month. We had like the normal regular hardcover subscription, and then we had the just another extra for fun. It does have an exclusive cover, and it's this one, which is Beasts of Prey by Ayanna Gray. It says The Hunt Begins on the front. And this one is just, I can't get over how stunning this is. This one, if I remember correctly, it's been a little bit since I read the synopsis of this, but this is like a jungle fantasy where like there is this zoo of magical creatures, I want to say, or beasts and stuff, and something happens and they get loose, and so our main character has to go into the jungle to find them with the help of this dude. I feel like there's much more. I feel like magic is a no-no in this world as well. So, do I really know what I'm going to get into with this one? Absolutely not. But it's stunning, and I got it in my Fairy Loot. So very, very pretty. And then the actual, like, book that we got was Defy the Knight by Bridget Kemmerer. This is the newest, and I believe it's the same series as A Curse of Dark and Lonely. That world, the Cursebreaker, is that right? Cursebreaker series? Or trilogy, that one. I believe it's in the same world. But this is her newest book, and I was beyond excited to pick it up. I think you can read this one separately from that trilogy, if I understand correctly, because I don't think this has to do with anything that happened in that series. But we basically, in this one, follow our main character, whose name is Tessa. It's in this world where there's basically this plague, and the only thing that can save people who have this sickness are a very specific flower, and so our main character and her best friend go off in the middle of the night and kind of collect these flowers and help those who are really, really struggling. But then the flower starts to go extinct, and she believes there's something in the castle that will help. And so she sneaks into the castle and discovers something there. And I don't know if it's like no curse, if there's something with the prince who's supposed to be, I think, really corrupt in this world. There's definitely like hints of rebellion within this. And she discovers some stuff when she sneaks into this castle. So, do I think that there's going to be a romance between her and the prince? Yes, I do. But the best friend's there, so love triangle maybe? I don't know. But this sounds great. And I loved the first one in the Cursebreaker series. I cannot wait to continue with that series and pick this one up. So yeah, that was the two books that I got in my Fairy Loot. I then got my pre-order, because did I pre-order this, or did I just get this one? I honestly don't remember. But it's this one, which is Beasts and Beauty by Soman Chainani. You've seen this quite a few times on this channel already. I'm planning on reading this in November. So this is a middle grade collection of reimagined fairy tales. This is the author who wrote the School for Good and Evil, that I freaking love that series, like, so much. And so that's kind of like a reimagined fairy tale story, and so this is literally just a collection of fairy tales reimagined, made darker. That's all it is, but it sounds really cool. It's got illustrations throughout it. And I've loved his stuff in the past. Look how pretty these are. And so I don't know what I'm getting into with this one, but like I said, I've loved his stuff in the past, so I'm very curious to see how he's gonna take some of the, like, very normal, like some of the ones I see here are Red Riding Hood, Snow White, Sleeping Beauty, Cinderella, Little Mermaid, things like that, like those fairy tales that we all know and love, and give it a little bit of a twist. So I'm very excited to get to this one, but I had to pick it up because it came out, like, I really want to say at the beginning of October. The next one is actually one that we picked up for my husband, and that's this one, which is the Hawthorne Legacy by Jennifer Lynn Barnes. This is the sequel to the Inheritance games, which he read last year and freaking loved. I'm planning on picking that one up in November as well, but he was so in love with that book that he immediately wanted this one, and so when it came out, we picked it up for him, and he got through it in like 2 days. Like, he hasn't read for most of the year, and then read this in 2 days because he was so invested in this series. Now I don't know what this one's about, obviously, because it's the second in a series, but the first one follows a girl who basically gets a letter saying that she's inherited this old dude's fortune, but in order to do so, she has to play this series of games, and also the family of this guy is out for her, and, like, doesn't want her to get it because they don't know why she's been given this inheritance, and neither does she. So it's like a series of games. It's very mysterious. People talk about this book and they compare it to the movie Knives Out, which both me and my husband loved. So I'm very excited to see where that goes, but this is just the sequel, and I do know there's at least one more that's coming out next year sometime. I don't know if that's it, if that's the end, but there's at least one more in the series. So we picked this one up as well. So he's now read it. So now I need to read the first one so I can get to this one. The next one I picked up was this beautiful book right here, which is Pride and Premeditation by Tirzah Price. This is one that I've seen in stores for months. And of course, y'all know my Jane Austen heart was so obsessed with this. But I put it off and I put it off. I wasn't sure I was going to get to it this year because it's like a fun cozy mystery, and to me November is fun cozy mystery time. But I finally decided to pick it up because I had plans to read it in November, and it's on my TBR, and as of filming this I have read it and it was amazing. But this is basically a murder mystery based on Pride and Prejudice by Jane Austen. We have our lovely Lizzie Bennet, whose father is a barrister, and because she is a woman, she's kind of like looked upon as being weird for wanting to get into law, which is a man's profession. And so her dad basically gives her this, like, if you can convince me with logic, I will let you be part of the kind of, I don't know, law firm. It's not a law firm, but like the equivalent of a law firm at the time. And so she discovers this new case which follows Bingley. Yes, that Bingley, who has been accused of killing his brother-in-law. He claims he is innocent, and his lawyer is Darcy. So she gets in on that and tries to help solve that murder mystery, and obviously gets herself in lots of trouble, and I loved every freaking second of this. So this is the first in a trilogy. There's going to be 2 more books. One more, I think, the next one comes out in April, I want to say, which is, oh no, I've forgotten the name. It's based on Sense and Sensibility, and then the third one is going to be based on Mansfield Park, and they're all kind of reimagined Jane Austen stories with a murder mystery twist. That's all I gotta say. All I gotta say. So I picked it up, obviously. The next book that I am hoping to get to in November as well, I picked it up because it sounded interesting, but I'm planning on getting to it in November, and that is this one, which is The Appeal by Janice Hallett. I've talked about this quite a lot recently because, again, it's a mystery. It feels appropriate for the time of year. But this basically follows 2 law students, and their law professor has given them this collection of files that surrounds a small town. Now, someone in the small town has died, and someone else in the small town has been convicted of the murder, and the law professor is convinced that that person is innocent. And so this book is the actual collection of files that is given to the law students, and you as the reader are kind of the law student figuring out and trying to figure out what happened. So just this idea sounds fascinating to me. I am very curious as to how this is going to end, because to me I see 2 solutions. The first solution is you are like going through these files. It's in mixed media format. I don't know why there's a bookmark in there, but it's a mixed media format, and you are kind of going along with the law students, and they do tell you at the end what happens. But I also see the ending being something that, like, you have to figure out, and the author is not going to tell you regardless of what happens, and I'm worried that that is the case, but I need to know. I picked it up because it just sounds so cool. I've never heard of a story like this. It's a very interesting and new way of telling it. I'm so interested. So yeah, I picked it up, hoping to read it in November. The next 3 books I'm going to do together because they're part of the same series, and that is my beautiful, beautiful editions of the first 3 in the From Blood and Ash series by Jennifer L. Armentrout. These are the fun Fairy Loot Collective editions that I bought like way at the beginning of the year. They're planning on doing more. Like every time there's a new book in the series, they're going to add a new edition that matches. I'll show you an overlay like of how stunning these are. But we have From Blood and Ash, A Kingdom of Flesh and Fire, and The Crown of Gilded Bones. And they're all beautifully stenciled on the edge of the pages. You have stenciled, actually I'm not sure if it's stenciled, but you've got like stunning embossed covers, and in true Fairy Loot edition, you have stunning, stunning illustrations on the back of all of the covers. So they're just beautiful. The end pages are pretty, but they are just absolutely stunning, and this is a series that I've been very interested in, and of course I went ahead and just got the pretty editions. So I am planning on reading From Blood and Ash in November. Fingers crossed I can get to it. But basically it follows our main character Poppy, who has been chosen as like a maiden, and the life of a maiden is solitary. They're never to be touched, never to be looked upon, never to be spoken to, and never to experience any sort of pleasure. They're waiting for the day of their ascension, whatever that means, and they're kind of guarded. So you've got Poppy, who's a maiden, and then there's the guard, whose name I don't even know. Hawk. His name is Hawk. And it's, I believe, a romance between the 2 of them. But this is a fantasy, and I'm not sure what the fantastical elements are. I've heard a lot of people who have talked about this book and have never said that because they feel like the fantastical elements are a spoiler. I have suspicions on what I think they are, but I can't wait to dive into the first one and actually figure out if my suspicions are correct. I've heard great things, but I got the stunning Fairy Loot editions because how could I not? So the next, four are going to be some middle grades and children, well, mostly middle grade books that we got from the Scholastic Fair at my husband's school. So the first one is this absolutely stunning book, which is The Dollmaker of Krakow, I think, and it's by R.M. Romero. This one I purely got because the cover is so stunning, but based on what it says in the synopsis, I believe it takes place mostly in Poland. And it does kind of take place during, like, Nazi soldier invasion as well, because we follow this girl who's actually a doll, and she's grown up in the land of the dolls, and then something happens, and she kind of gets spirited away to, like, the human world, I think, to this doll maker who's really kind of, like, introverted, stays in the house, almost a hermit, and so she encourages him to, like, go out and do great things, and they have, like, a really nice friendship, and then the Nazi soldiers descend upon Poland. It does say here on the back, in the land of dolls there is magic. In the world of humans, war is raging. Everywhere there is pain, but together there is hope. So I'm very curious to see how this goes. I think it's going to be a very interesting kind of fantastical take on Nazi Germany. Not Nazi Germany, but like that time period of the Nazis. So I'm very interested in this. It sounds amazing. The art in the book is stunning. Like, there are some legit pages in here that, like, oh my gosh, look at that! So pretty. But yeah, that was a straight up a cover buy. I was like, that sounds interesting, after I looked into it because the cover sparked my interest. So this next book, I'm gonna totally butcher this author's name, and I apologize. I have not had time to look it up yet. But it's this one, which is, ooh, super shiny. Baraka Beats, and it's by Malia Siddiqui, I believe. And so this basically follows our main character, who I believe her name is Nimra, and she is in middle school. She works her job in middle school, and she is just trying to fit in, you know? And so she joins this group called the Baraka Beats, and it's a band of boys. She's the only girl in this boy band, basically, but she's been taught that in Islam, music is a big no-no, and so she's having this very, like, cultural clash of being in America and being in this band that she loves, but also, like, some things not aligning with her culture. Very curious to see where this goes. It sounds like a very hard-hitting contemporary for middle schoolers. But both me and my husband were interested in this one. Actually, he's the one who brought it, and I was like, oh, that sounds interesting. So I'm excited to get into this at some point, but it does sound like it's going to be super hard-hitting and touch on some tough subjects, and I am ready for it. So this one, I'm not sure if I'm going to do the synopsis justice just because I'm a little confused, but it's this one, which is The Dragon Prince Book 1, which is titled Moon. And this is by Aaron, oh my goodness, a lot of people. It's by a lot of people. But this is based on a Netflix series, and it sounds like fantastical fun. So it follows this world where, like, dragons are big, and apparently the last dragon egg was destroyed by humans, and the Dragon King and Queen are not happy about it, so they send an elf assassin, and he teams up with a couple of humans, and they make a big discovery, which takes their entire plan into a different direction. So I'm really curious to see, I'm really curious to read this and then find the series on Netflix and see kind of what happens, really. Like, is this identical to the Netflix series? Is it just like a novelization of the Netflix series? Like, I don't know what I'm getting into, but I don't know, it just sounded really interesting. So my husband was also interested in it, so we picked this one up. I have absolutely no idea what we're getting into. The last book that he picked up, because, you know, why not, is a graphic novel of the first Magic Treehouse book by Mary Pope Osborne. This one is Dinosaurs Before Dark. Now, Magic Treehouse was his books when he grew up. I've read some, but they were not, like, I didn't read a lot when I was growing up. I knew of them, but they weren't ones that I actively went out to read, whereas my husband freaking loved these books. And so he was very curious to see what it was like in a novelization form, and I love graphic novels, so I'm here to give it a try. You know, it follows Jack and Annie, who I assume are siblings, and this magic treehouse just appears, filled with books, and before they know it, they're whisked off into different parts of history. So this one they must go back to prehistoric dinosaur times, because, I mean, dinosaurs. But yeah, this is definitely for, like, children, but I'm very excited to give it a try. Maybe I'll try to fit it in the Leave-a-thon, because why not? Why not? You know? The next one is actually a pre-order that came in, and that is the third and finale in the Frostheart series by Jamie Littler. This one is Rise of the World Eater. Wow, that sounds not great. I've read the first one. I read it last month. You would have seen it in my October wrap-up. I need to read the second one at some point. But I did pre-order the third one when I purchased the first two, and I got the stunning UK covers. I didn't get the pretty sprayed edges. Somehow I got the pretty second sprayed edge. Like, the second book I got sprayed edged, but, like, the first and the third don't have sprayed edges. And I'm not upset, because, like, it kind of goes, you know, like, it works. But I don't even know what this one's about, and I'm purposely not looking, because, again, the third in a series. But the first one basically follows this kid named Ash in this world that's very snowy and icy and cold. And there are these things called Leviathans, which are these crazy evil, well, according to the people, evil creatures, and they communicate through song. So if a human communicates through song, they're thought of as evil because they're able to communicate with these Leviathans. And Ash is one of those people. They're called song weavers. And some stuff happens, and he ends up having to leave his village that he's been living in. And he goes on this ship called the Frostheart. And his parents left him when he was really, really young. They were adventurers, and they just have never come back. And so he's convinced that they're still alive. So he's going on this voyage to basically figure out what happened to them, because he's convinced that they are still alive and he wants to find them. So this is the third and final in the series, and I'm excited to continue whenever I get around to it. And the next book is the one that I got in my October Unplugged Book Box. So if you haven't seen that unboxing, again, skip ahead a couple minutes. I'll link it above if you would like to see it. But that book is this one, which is The Violent Season by Sarah Walters. This is straight up a horror book, and I'm terrified, because y'all know I don't do horror. But this one basically takes place in this place called Wolf Ridge, where every specific season, I'm going to assume it's probably October, November, everyone seems to get really bloodthirsty and someone always dies. Excuse you. So we follow this human named Wyatt, whose mother was brutally murdered the year before. And so this year, the call for violence is coming for her best friend. And so she's seeing some changes in her best friend. And I don't really know what else. There's gonna be lots of death, I'm sure. But yeah, it was my Unplugged book box, or book from that box. I'm honestly terrified of this one. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. And then the rest of the books in this haul are all from that bargain bookstore I was telling you about. So I went with 2 goals in mind. I wanted to see if they had any Testadero books, to be honest. I always go to look for Testadero, but I think I cleaned them out when I went that one time, and they've just never have any that I don't have. But then I also wanted to see if they had any Agatha Christie books, because I have a few, but I wanted to see if they had any more. And then I also wanted to see if there were any more in the Mallory series by Joanna Lindsey, because I did read one a couple of months ago and I really enjoyed it, and so I wanted to get the rest in that series. So I found one Joanna Lindsey book, and I found a couple of Agatha Christie books, but of course I walked out of there with more than that. So we'll do the romances together, I guess. So again, because there's quite a few here, I'm not going to go into detail about what they are about, but I did pick up 4 Joanna Lindsey books. So the first one is Gentle Rogue, which is in fact a Mallory story. It's the 3rd one. I don't love this cover. I'm also really bitter because someone wrote 2 for $10 on it in Sharpie. I can't get it off. But it was like 50 cents. So if I really like it, we'll get a much prettier version. But yeah, so I picked up that one, which is the only Mallory book. And then we have Surrender My Love, which I believe is like a Viking story. And then we have Fires of Winter, which again, I believe is a Viking story. And then one that I've always had my eye on, and that one is When Passion Rules. I've seen it there every single time I've gone, and it just calls to me, you know? So I picked up those for some kind of older covers. I do have some stunning step backs in some of these, but yeah, I'm obsessed with her, okay? And then I did pick up 2 Lisa Kleypas books. I have Dreaming of You, which honestly I don't even remember what this one's about, but it looks like it takes place in a little cute little cottage. And then this one is purely a cover buy. Again, I bought another Lisa Kleypas book that was purely a cover buy, and it's this one, which is Where Dreams Begin. And it, like, look at this step back. It's so freaking, I can't get over it. But it says, could she dare go to the place where dreams begin? But yeah, so more kind of Victorian, maybe not Edwardian, but like Regency books. But honestly, like, I'm obsessed. Look at that cover. Oh, and then the couple of Agatha Christie books I picked up this one, which is The Murder of Roger Ackroyd, which is a Hercule Poirot mystery. It fits with all the other covers that I have. I don't know. So Roger Ackroyd dies, I think, I assume, considering it's called The Murder of, and Hercule Poirot has to come in and figure it out. And then I did get a bigger copy of Murder on the Orient Express. I have the tiny little like mass market paperback, but considering that all of my other Agatha Christie's are in these bigger paperbacks, I picked up this one, and I've never seen this cover before. And while it doesn't match the other ones exactly, I'm still happy with it. Like, I've never, it's a little, you know, falling apart. I had to tape the edge a little bit, but I don't know, I've just never seen this cover before, and it's so pretty. But yeah, it's this dude gets murdered on the Orient Express, and Hercule Poirot is there to figure out what's going on. So, a couple more Agatha Christie books to add to my never-ending collection. And the last book I have to show you, and the last one I picked up, is one that I've seen around. It's a historical romance. And honestly, I only need to know one of the line on the back, and that's this one, which is Mr. Malcolm's List. It's by Suzanne Allen, I think. Oh, it's soon to be made into a major motion picture. But right here, it says, "Move over, Mr. Darcy. There's a new man in town." I didn't really need to know any more than that, to be honest. So this follows a guy named Jeremy Malcolm, and he is determined to have a perfect wife. You know, he wants to get married, he wants to skip over all the fortune hunters, and he wants a perfect wife. So he has a list, and he basically measures all women up to this list. In walks in Selena, who is a vicar's daughter, and she is brought in to meet this Mr. Malcolm by revenge of one of her friends. And at first she's a little bitter, because Mr. Malcolm seems super nice. And then he starts measuring her up to this ridiculous list that he's got, and she's like, okay, cool, I'm gonna get on this revenge. I don't know what this revenge means, but I don't know, it just sounds really interesting. And it's a historical romance. Like, do I need to say anything else? This is my vibe now. And that is it. Those are all the books that I picked up in October. I mean, I don't know. Did I do better than some months? Maybe. Did I do worse than others? Most definitely. But I hope that you guys enjoyed. Let me know if you've read any of the books that I have mentioned in this video. I would love to know your thoughts on them. Or if there's just a really pretty book that you picked up, or one that you're really excited about that you picked up in October. I'd love to know what you're excited to get to. But if you like this video, and I very much hope that you did, don't forget to give it a big thumbs up and subscribe down below if you want to be part of this awesome growing family. I've also got all my social media down there, as well as other fun bookish links, so don't forget to check all of those out, and I will see you guys in my next video. Bye!